is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media, Incorporated. Somebody's laughing all the way to the bank. And unfortunately, with a team in the UFL, everybody's just laughing. Next on Total Football Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back once again to episode 79. That's right, of Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting news, gridiron action, and fun, just the way you like it. Well, I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the EP of all EPs. Let me do that again. That is the EP of all EPs. There you go. Also known as a mad scientist, but I am not doing this alone. No, ladies and gentlemen, I have, as always, my other co-host of the show, the one that you know as Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report, the man you know as Mr. Inter Sports Debate, the man you know as D. Willie in the Evenings host. Well, he is the one, the only, the incomparable D. Willie, aka Drew Willingham. How you doing, sir?
Good morning there, sir. Glad to be here with you here yet again for episode 79 of Total Football Talk as we are live right now to rock and roll it one more time here on a Monday afternoon/morning.
It is wonderful to be with you yet again, and it's also wonderful to be with all of you out there. I believe I'm speaking for Drew when I say that as well. There is some football action we have to get to. And we will do that right now in opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on two. Ready? Ready.
Now, of course, the action started last week. Now, yesterday and Saturday and Friday's action, we will review right now. All right, so we had... For Friday night, the Birmingham Stallions, who they limped out to an L last week, they traveled to Detroit to play the Panthers, and they accounted for themselves pretty well. They beat the Panthers 21-12 on the strength of Matt Corral. You may have known he was the QB of Mississippi, Ole Miss, I should say. 18-29, 198 yards, a touchdown, but he did throw for 2 INTs. He also carried the ball thrice for 45 yards. On the receiving end, Deion Kane, he gave you 4 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. On the defensive end for the Stallions, you had Kava Tassino with 5 solo tackles, A.J. Thomas with a pick of his own. You had Bradley Ane with 2 tackles for losses and 2 sacks. And for special teams, we do have Memphis, 3 field goals of 3 attempts, 3 of 3. On the Michigan Panthers end, Bryce Perkins, effort, 12 of 23, 132 yards, a touchdown, a pick. He also had 3 carries. He carried the ball for 30 yards. On defense, pretty much, I guess you could say the star of the team, Kai Nakua, he had a tackle for loss and 8 solo tackles. Arnold Tarpley, he had 6 solo tackles of his own. Breland Speaks, 6 solo tackles and 2 tackles for losses. And DJ Miller Jr., he ended up with those 2 picks of Matt Corral's. Now, you called this game, if I'm not mistaken. How was the action, and did it seem as uneven as the stats that I just read out?
Yeah, it was pretty dismal throughout this game. The Panthers were playing pretty lackluster
Mhm.
throughout. I mean, throughout the first quarter, it was pretty boring. It was just a 3-0 contest as the Stallions were
Right.
up 3-0 at the end of that. At the end of the second quarter, going into halftime again, they only matched what they did in the first quarter, only up 6-0 after a result of 2 field goals within one per quarter going into halftime.
Mhm.
And you look at what they did going into the third quarter. They received an interception, one of the 2 interceptions that were thrown on the
Mhm.
day by Matt Corral. The Panthers picked that up in the third quarter, and they finally, were able to score a touchdown as a result. The Stallions did after scoring those 2 field goals. They were up 12-0 after 3 quarters. It
Ooh.
wasn't until after the Panthers were down 18-0 that they finally scored. Cole, they were down 18-0. Imagine calling this game, doing the play-by-play. Thankfully, I had Sick Diggy in the comments who was helping me out.
Mhm.
Staying energized because this game was absolutely dumpster pelican worthy on the Panthers side for
Yeah.
both offense and defense as they were down 18-0 at one point before they finally scored. And when they did, they converted one of the very few 3-point conversions I've seen in recent memory, as they were able to go from 6 points to 9 points on the 3-point conversion, be down 18-9, and then have a chance to tie the game up when you're only down by 3, when you're only down by one score of nine
Mhm.
points. So it gave you a little bit of hope. But even at this point, when they scored, there was still when, when they scored, there was a minute and a half left in the game. So, with all that being said, even though there was hope, there wasn't but so much hope, because by the end of it, yeah, there was a little bit more scoring. Did they get another touchdown? Yes, but at the end of it, no, they actually got a field goal because they were trying to set themselves up for another one possession game of 21-12. But when
Right.
they did that, it was a minute and a half left in the game. My apologies, and then they could not get the 4th and 12 conversion, which
All right.
is the
Keep the ball.
UFL's equivalent of the onside kick in the
Right.
NFL, where you had the
Mhm.
4th and 12. They
Right.
were not able to convert on that because when you have a minute and a half left and they kick the field goal to bring themselves within 9 of 21-12, you go for it on 4th and 12 at that point, and then if you convert it, you have a real shot at really coming back. But
Right.
from the beginning of the game to the end, even though it was lackluster throughout the first half, the Stallions had this from start to end. And, both teams coming into this game, one 0-1, the other one 1-0. At the end of this, both teams are 1-1 and at 500. And, deservingly so, because both teams have played like a 500 ball club through 2 weeks.
Solid analysis, because I saw a little bit. I think the end of the first quarter, I saw a little bit of that, and it seemed like the action was. It literally felt as though I was looking at two teams trying to feel each other out,
Yes.
and and normally when you see that normally plays at the hands of the defense. And I looked at the score, I was like, oh, 3-0 Stallions. So I get that it will. The pace of play is reflective of the score. Okay, got it. And for the casual fan, that sucks. It's not the ball is being tossed all over the place, and action is all over, and you can get excited for stuff. This would be probably for coaches and purists, where you would want to see if blocks are being made and tackles are being made, and blocks are being shed. And execution is basically about that, and that was the feel I got when I saw the little bit I could see of it. And then when I studied the rest of it, and saw clips of it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much par for the course. I was like, now I might be seeing something, so I'll ask Drew because he saw this game and called it. So I'm thinking, okay, this is what I'm saying. I hope I'm not off, and thank you for saying that I wasn't.
No, you definitely weren't. And, it was like from the kickoff to the end, when the clock struck 0, it looked like the Panthers were absolutely, without a doubt, destined to take the. Oh, they were.
Yes, and I 100% agree with that. They were destined to take that L, it looks like. And as you so definitely said, both teams are now 1-1. The Giants have proved to it. Unfortunately, the Panthers fall to it. But the Stallions did look better this past week as opposed to the week before when they were in DC. All right, now from the Friday game to the Sunday late kickoff, and the Battlehawks, who normally have the biggest crowd in the UFL, they hosted their first game against the San Antonio Brahmas, and they put everybody in the stadium and watching at home to sleep. 26-9, the game wasn't even that close. Manny Wilkins, who basically was efficient last week, he was efficient this week. 12-16, 162 yards. He also carried the ball 9 times for 58 yards as well. The Battlehawks offense, 164 yards rushing as a team. Brandon Stavashian, he had a pick. The Battlehawks defense had 4 sacks of Kellen Mond, who was 13-27, 129 yards in a pick. He also had 3 carries for 19 yards. But the star of the game, you would have to say, would be Jacob Salas. 11 carries, 46 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He also had three receptions for 25 yards. One of them came on a 23-yard pass catch. Your thoughts on the Battlehawks basically dismantling the Brahmas?
Their offense had their way with the Brahmas defense. Their defense on the Brahmas side has definitely fell off dramatically, and dramatically is the nicest way I could really put it, because this team, when you give up 26 points in the fashion of what they did, especially, losing back-to-back weeks after going to the UFL championship, you dominate the XFL division, you dominate the XFL championship, you go into the UFL championship and get decimated by the Stallions, and it looks like they just broke the team as a whole, and Wade Phillips and Toe, they're all just a shell of themselves, is what it looks like at this point. Literally wearing the jersey, because Sailors comes in, doesn't have remarkable numbers at 11 carries for 46 yards, but they're setting him up 3 out of his 11 carries for successful touchdown carries. So, again, you have 11 carries for 46 yards. 3 of those 11 are touchdowns.
Right.
And you're still only putting up 46 yards on the day, but you're the star of the day because you got the ball in the end zone 3 times. Your quarterback, only had 4 incompletions, threw for 162 yards, and carried the ball 9 times for 48 yards. He did a great job, too.
He did.
But we give the player of the game to the guy who had 3 touchdowns because he was set up because of what the offense was doing, because of how the quarterback was leading it. 164 total yards as an offense is nothing to look the other way at. And this Battlehawks team, watching this game last night, was it fun to watch? No. Thankfully, I had 2 screens up, and on A&E, you got WWE on A&E for 3 hours. So that was nice to have that as the counteract, as something to listen to and watch while also keeping an eye on this game, because there wasn't much to really keep an eye on in this game outside of Sailors running 3 touchdowns in as a result of how the offense was led by Manny Wilkins. The defense, like you said, had 4 sacks, but I want to say the downside of this game was watching Kellen Mond as the quarterback for the Brahmas. And we talked about this last Monday, Cole. I mean, I was a little harsh on him then, but I'm about to be a little more harsh on him now, because your ineffectiveness at quarterback, they had 2 different quarterbacks last year and still made it to the UFL championship.
Right.
And now you have a whole new quarterback, a little bit of a different offense because they've made some adjustments on the offensive line. We haven't seen Tyrone Alizé McDummy out there for the Brahmas, or at least be effective. So I don't know what's going on there. Was he somebody that I was throwing shade at last year, all year long, but actually the missing piece, the person who was keeping the glue together inside the locker room, was he the one out there in the huddle keeping things together? Was he the captain? Tyrone Alizé McDummy? I don't know, because it is showing right here and now that they are lost without him. He's getting no targets in the game, and they're getting no wins. That is what I'm seeing right here from this team. There's a San Antonio Brahmas. Because I'm concerned. You've got Jontre Kirkland out here. This is one thing I wanted to talk about today, is the targets to the receiver. This is how bad Kellen Mond was beat. Because your targets to your receivers. You look at Jontre Kirkland, who had 4 catches for 43 yards on the day. That looks decent. But he had 8 targets, so he missed half of his targets. Didn't catch them. Why? You'd probably look at that stat line and say it was Jontre Kirkland himself. No, because Mr. Harris himself, good old Jacob Harris, the leading receiver on the team, had 3 catches, Cole Johnson. He had 3 catches. 3 catches for 69 yards, averaging 23 yards per catch. But he had 8 targets because he missed the ball 5 times. So you missed 5. Jontre Kirkland misses 4. Mr. Ryan McMath had 3 targets, missed 2 of those. So you're right there. We're talking about 11 missed passes. That's not even the entire list of receivers. If you add another, we probably got over a dozen, probably about 15 missed passes by Kellen Mond here. Pretty close, 14, because he was 13 to 27, so 14 incompletions. You had more incompletions than you had completions by 13 instead of 14. But you still did a terrible job. Kellen Mond, 46.7 QBR in an interception. You did a terrible job last week. You did a terrible job this week. They need to switch it up at quarterback over there for the San Antonio Brahmas, or they're going to... I'm already going to say it now, 2 weeks, and you're not going to the UFL championship. I don't want to. I don't want to say it right here, right now, but we got to look at the 2 teams that they have played this week, Cole. I mean, this has been absolutely terrible. Look at it, 26-9 against the Battlehawks, who don't even have A.J. McCarron, okay? They don't even have him. They have a whole new quarterback. They have a whole new system there, too, just like over there in the Brahmas. And what's their excuse? Same exact thing. They changed. You lost 33-9 last week, and we just talked about that, to the Renegades. So you've only put up 18 points throughout the first 2 weeks, but yet you've given up 59 points. You've been outscored 59-18 through 2 weeks. That's absolutely absurd when you look at this play by Kellen Mond. And last week, he was 17-31 for a QBR of 69. So it's not looking good. You don't really have that good of a running attack. And your offensive line looks depleted in comparison to what you had last year, because last year it was the offensive line in the running game that helped you out get to the point to where you're at. So you tell me, what are you seeing? Do you feel that there's any way that this team can go to the UFL championship? Because through 2 weeks, I'm already throwing in the towel with these guys.
I would say that they would probably have to do it defensively to actually have a shot, just a shot to even have a chance to go that far. But when you're getting dominated on the ground like they were, that's not a good sign. Although yes, we know the Battlehawks, their calling card is basically tandem ground attack. That pretty much is a calling card. But if defensively you cannot stop a team from just running all over you, that is a problem. And to me, and I believe you agree with me on this, the 2 biggest factors you must have when it comes to success, I mean, just basic bottom level success would be, you have to be able to run the ball effectively, and you have to be able to stop it effectively. Well, in this game, you saw that the Brahmas couldn't do either. They couldn't stop the run at all, and they couldn't get a running game started. I mean, so in seeing that being both minuses, no, I'm with you. I don't think this is too early to say that the Brahmas won't be playing postseason ball in the UFL because the trench work is horrible, and it is evident. It is evident in the bad decision making that Mond is having. I mean, like you said, basically, more incompletions than completions. That's not good. And they gave up 164 yards on the ground. That's not good either. So no, there isn't anything that I can hang my hat on about the Brahmas that makes me say, yeah, I think they could turn this around. And I would love to say I could, but no, they're looking bad. They fought 0-2. Well,
I mean, because your top two teams from your conference make the playoffs, and they're nowhere even close to it. 0-2. It's like when you start off a league that's this small, 0-2, it's tough to come back from that. So if you're 1-1, you're kind of in the safe zone. If you're 2-0, you're looking great. But if you're 0-2 at this point, and especially the biggest challenge is going to be this weekend, and we'll talk about that here at the end of the show. If they go 0-3, it's over. It's a wrap for this year.
Oh, no question. No question. They can't go 0-3 and expect to go to postseason play. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Battlehawks, 2-0, and they look really good in their home debut for the year, and they're looking good. Period. Their defense has held two teams down to under 10 points, and their offense, well, they're running up the score. They have the best rushing attack in the UFL right now. Will that continue? We shall see. But they're starting 2-0, and yeah, without AJ McCarron, things are looking up for the Battlehawks. Now, I'll do this with a disclaimer. All favorites won in this game, so there technically it's not an upset, but we're still going to do an. And why are we still doing an upset of the week? Well, the following game between the Roughnecks and the Renegades is why. When you have two teams that combined scoring for 20 points, it means the viewers were upset watching this game. But the Renegades, they did win 11-9 over the Roughnecks. It was a boring game, except for one Luis Perez. 19-27, 211 yards. He did throw for a touchdown. He did have a carry. It was for -1 yard. On defense for the Renegades, Donald Payne, he gave you 6 total tackles, and Gene Harris, he gave you a pick. And then Anthony Brown, goodness gracious, 14 of 30, 146 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also had 3 carries, 20 yards. And the only bright spot for the Roughnecks, Markel Roby, 7 solo tackles and a sack. Your thoughts on the Renegades going to 2-0 with an 11-9 victory over the Roughnecks?
This game absolutely was a lot better to watch than last night's game, I would say. The 26-9 contest was absolutely tough to watch, but 11-9 was a little bit better. But this Roughnecks team, very similar to the Brahmas, very similar to even the Showboats who we haven't discussed yet, but even that was a better game. They've struggled over the course of the past couple of years, and this team right here, the Roughnecks, has been at the bottom of the league. And even with the merger of the USFL and taking on the name, like, it's still, it went from being a decent team in the USFL to combining with the XFL and just still remaining at the bottom of the league. Watching last week, you could see the improvement in the Memphis Showboats as far as being competitive. And in this game, I would say was the closest you could say would be the Roughnecks being in the conversation. But even from start to finish, the game was more of a disappointment on the side of the Renegades, because even if the Renegades get the win, and they won in the fashion that they did last week against the Brahmas, You could definitely see where they had improved, and Luis Perez establishing the chemistry of what he has back there at the quarterback position over the years for the Renegades has done a great job. But this Roughnecks team is absolutely in trouble, just like the Brahmas. They absolutely are not making the playoffs. These are two
No.
teams. If I were to say out of any of the 3 0-2 teams that we have right now, I would say the Showboats look the best of the 3.
Agreed.
But you know, for the Roughnecks here, absolutely terrible when it comes to the display of talent of what they have on offense. Defensively, they did better this week than they did in week 1.
Right.
But offense is where I'm seeing a lot of the lackluster play on this team. I mean, you talked about Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown was my snowflake of the week last week, and deservingly so. And almost, if it wasn't for another player who I thought was worse than him this week, he almost was my selection as well as the entire Memphis Showboats. I was going to go with the offense, but then I changed it to one person, and we'll talk more about that when the snowflake of the week happens. But Anthony Brown, again, completing less than half of his passes, 14 at 30, very similar to what Kellen Mond did, except for he had more incompletion attempts.
Incompletions. Yeah, Brown
Had a few more yards, actually got the ball in the end zone, but still has an interception. On the ground is very similar numbers to what Kellen Mond did, but the upset of the week, it's tough to put it there, and I see why you did. But I think it's more so of an upset of the week because the Renegades didn't score. Yeah, they couldn't score. So I was expecting to see something similar to what we got from the last game we covered, where it was that much of a lopsided score between 26-9, somewhere around that ballpark for the Renegades and Roughnecks. That's why I would say, in my opinion, it would be an upset. But Luis Perez proved it again. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over for another week. Another touchdown. He's not a mobile quarterback, as we've discussed in previous episodes, and he proved it yet again. Outside of it sucks that the one highlight the Roughnecks have is you have one player, Markel Roby, with 7 solo tackles and a sack. I mean, he is your highlight of the game. And, had it not been for a player like him, they would have given up more points. So I think he was part of the reason why this was kept as an upset. This offense for the Roughnecks has absolutely got to make improvements, because very similar to the San Antonio Brahmas, they just can't do anything offensively. No. And it's not looking good for them in their future for the Roughnecks.
I agree. And your assessment's spot on. The Roughnecks is a horrible team. As a whole, the defense is okay, but their offense is atrocious. And I really felt the Renegades should have laid into the Roughnecks. And I'm okay, fine, I'll say it. I'm vastly disappointed that the Renegades did not. I'm a little bit upset that it took them getting to the fourth quarter and putting forth a touchdown to actually say, okay, we have this game under control. They should not have struggled with the Roughnecks at all, in my opinion. But offensively, they, other than Perez executing as well as he could and not turning the ball over, as you said, other than that, the offense not getting what they needed to get. And, to me, I just think that when you have a team that's as bad as the Roughnecks, you should make it a point to just simply put them out their misery the first 2 quarters. When you get to halftime, just have them say, "Oh Lord, here we go again." And to me, I think that's where the disappointment is, at least from my end, because I think the Renegades should have done that to the Roughnecks. They did not, which to me made this a vastly disappointing game. Although, yes, it was competitive and close. However, the Roughnecks, they still fall to 0-2, although they had a competitive game. The Renegades, they improved to 2-0. Not as good of a performance as last week, but still another home W for the Renegades. Congratulations to you guys. But yeah, you all got to play better. Oof. And now to the game of the week. Between the aforementioned Memphis Showboats and the DC Defenders. This game was in DC. DC defended their home turf last week well, and they defended their home turf this week well. 17-12 was the final score. The Defenders beat the Showboats. The Defenders defense wasn't as dominant as last week, but Jordan Ta'amu was just as bad. 12 of 26 for under 52 yards and a touchdown. He also carried the ball thrice for 18 yards. At least he didn't turn the ball over this time. Keontae Thomas on defense for the Defenders got you a pick. Andre Mensah got you a fumble recovery. And Matt McCrane, he was 3 of 4 for field goals. For the Showboats, E.J. Perry was 18 of 28 for 194 yards, and that aforementioned Keontae Thomas pick. He also carried the ball 4 times for 26 yards, and he had a rushing touchdown as well. Jonathan Adams, the best receiving total of the week, 9 receptions for 128 yards. Steel Chambers on defense, he gave you 6 solo tackles, and Matt Coughlin. That's right, Matt Coughlin gave you 2 of 3 field goals. All right, your thoughts on the DC Defenders going to 2-0 against the Showboats?
This game right here for Jordan Ta'amu was another good one. As far as production-wise, where they're getting the ball in the end zone, he's not turning the ball over. He had a touchdown, no turnovers. E.J. Perry on the other side, he did. Okay. It was okay. Mm-hmm. Had around 200 yards, but again, turnovers kill you, and that's exactly what happened right here. You look at the fact that you got somebody who was 3 of 4 on field goals, Matt McCrane on the other side. That definitely makes a difference in getting you your points that you need. But the fact that they got the ball in the end zone and the Showboats didn't makes the difference here on the day as far as consistently. Even though E.J. Perry scored, it kind of offsets Jordan Thomas, but you needed more than just one and to build on what you had done in week 1. If you were going to get the win and beat a team that had just beat the defending UFL champions and the Stallions, and the Defenders did that in week 1,
right,
you're going to have to score more than one touchdown. And the Showboats couldn't do that. And, the Defenders look pretty poised early on to win some games, but they're doing things early on that still remind me of last year where they were winning games early, but they still finished around 500, because of the way that they played in the middle towards the end of the year. I'm concerned about the consistency. When you're losing a game, when you're winning a game by only 5 points to the Showboats, that doesn't really build much on what you did from last week with the Stallions. That's what I'm concerned of, between watching what the Defenders did in week 1 in comparison to what they did in week 2. So if you're Ta'amu and the Defenders, good for winning, but you need to look at the downside of what you did from week 1 in comparison to week 2. You still completed less passes than you did in attempts. You had 12 of 26 in Jordan Ta'amu. You need to build on that, because you're not going to be able to do that against good teams like the Stallions when you play them again, or when you play the Battlehawks, or even the Panthers. They had a loss this week, but they can still bounce back. They're still a pretty decent team based on what they did in week 1. And in football, it's any given Sunday, Monday, or Friday or Saturday for the UFL. But I would be concerned about playing like you did this week against the Showboats, against teams like the Renegades, the Panthers, and even the Battlehawks, because you can get away with certain things like you did against the Showboats, but you got to complete more passes. You got to get your ball to you got to get those targets completed to your receivers, and even get your tight end active over there in DC.
100.
And that's what I'm concerned about over there for the DC Defenders. If they cannot get things consistently moving over there, this 2-0 looks good, but they're going to do similar things to last year if they don't get things straightened out real quick.
Yeah, I think the issue that I'm seeing for DC is, well, the defense dominated in terms of the trenches last week. This week, this was more of a team defensive effort. No one really stood out, really. Although, like, you pick two guys that somewhat did, but this was more of an 11 playing as one type of defensive effort for the defenders. You can have this happen, but if the offense doesn't help out the defense, you can have the same thing like you said happen this year as opposed to last, where the team looks good, but the unit that actually sustains you to the point where it all fell apart, well, that unit's starting to fall apart, and the unit that needed the help and was being aided by the stronger unit, well, now they're being exposed as the unit that's going to help other teams to win. So I just want the defenders to actually at least try to run the ball more, help the defense out, run the ball a little more, and I think the defense would appreciate them. And who knows? I think the defenders might actually be more successful. And I agree with you. If they can utilize a tight end in the passing game, I think that will help everything out too. It'll help the passing game. It'll help the running game too. Because I think that's the one thing that's missing to me in the defenders being considered on par with, heck, even the Renegades. And I think they can compete with them. But definitely, they would need to have that in tow to compete with the team like the Battlehawks or even a team like the Stallions if they start to get rolling. But at 2-0, they have a great record, and so far, two really good defensive efforts in back-to-back weeks at home for them. For the Showboats, although they fall to 0-2, they battled pretty tough, and all I can do is tip my cap to them. But still, they took the L in there. Oh, I'm sorry, I did this wrong. In 0-2, they still took that wonderful Grand Spectacular. And that concludes this game of the week, and it also concludes opening drive. However, we're not done. Oh, no.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Hey!
Where my dogs at? Well, welcome to this episode's Grand Champ, and this is where we award the best player, or the one that is shining the brightest during the week. And for his Grand Champ, Drew, the floor is yours.
Well, my Grand Champ this week, I kept things within the UFL because, with this pick, you got to think about somebody who helped lead a team to victory, and we just talked about him a couple games ago. And even though the numbers weren't huge, he did have one huge statistical stat line, and that is within touchdowns. Jacob Sailors, 3 rushing touchdowns on the day for the Battlehawks against the Brahmas. 11 rushes for 46 yards, but 3 of those 8 were for touchdowns. He also had 3 receptions for 25 yards. He knew what his assignment was and delivered. Jacob Sailors is my pick for Grand Champ of the week.
Okay. And good choice. I think that stat line is tantamount to, you don't necessarily have to have the big time carrying number, big time yard number for a running back for him to actually be one where you'd say, yeah, he really had a productive day. He didn't gain 50 yards on the ground, but he still gave you 3 touchdowns on the ground. So he did do his job. So, yes, congrats, Jacob. I agree. You were a Grand Champ this week, sir. Now, I will say for an honorable mention, Luis Perez, you are in my camp for Grand Champ of the week. But I'm not going to award anybody in the UFL in particular, not because you all didn't deserve it. I just felt another player deserved it more. And the reason being, Mr. Geno Smith, I'm proud of you, sir. You had a big time extension, 2 years, $75 million with the Raiders, and it's not necessarily the money. I'm not saying this because of the dollar sign. I'm saying it because of the journey that you took. I mean, you were considered persona non grata after, from what I understood, uh, you had a teammate borrow money, then you felt some sort of way when that teammate didn't pay you back. This is, of course, when you were the Jets, and fisticuffs were thrown, and that pretty much was the end of you as a Jet, and it almost was the end of you as an NFL quarterback. But the current coach of the Raiders, who was the coach of the Seahawks in one Pete Carroll, saw something in you, and you put together some good years, even some playoff years with the Seahawks, and you actually ended up having a starting position with them. And now you are the starting quarterback of the Raiders. And people are now considering you I won't say franchise quarterback, but they're considering you a starter. And even in the Jets days, no one considered you that. So congratulations from you, rising yourself up from the ashes like a phoenix and showing that you are worthy of being counted on as a quarterback in the NFL. And he is my grand champ of this week.
Nice. I like it. So between my selection of Jacob Sailors and yours, we have two great picks this week for the grand champ of the week. Sailors, Smith. Smith gets paid, and he gets reunited, and it feels so good with DQ.
Nice. Nice. I can't top that. Beautiful. And yes, I agree. You made a good choice with Jacob Sailors too. That was a great choice with Grand Champ as well for you. Oh, again, we're not done. But again, we're not done. Playmaker from the Playmakers Blog Network. What's up, Playmaker? He says, "Good day, TFT fellas. Good day to you." And again, congratulations on you winning your winning hour, I guess you could say, shooting lights out bracket on the women's side. And hopefully that won't happen for the men's, but that's going from another side of things.
One more game left. One more game left in March Madness. And who's it going to be? Is it going to be Houston? Is it going to be Florida? Who's your pick?
Well, my pick is Houston. My pick is Houston, and Playmakers is Florida. So we shall see. Of course, tip-off is tonight at around 8. Almost 9. I'm sorry. So, yeah, we'll see tonight if you're watching this Monday. But we're not talking basketball. We're talking football. So, all right. You got an announcement of a retirement to talk about. The icon that was of the Falcons, one Mr. Julio Jones, where he is calling it quits after 13 years. The 36-year-old who made the announcement on the app Squad. He was a 7-time Pro Bowl selection and a 2-time first-team All-Pro. And he twice led the NFL in receiving yards, both in 2015 2018. And he is on the Falcons' all-time leader in receiving yards and receptions. He has 60 receiving touchdowns that rank second in the history of the franchise. That's behind Roddy White's 63. Now, my question to you, sir, is the following. Considering the retirement of Julio Jones, what is his legacy going to be?
He had one big opportunity to win a Super Bowl and failed, and it wasn't even his fault. He did everything he could to be a Super Bowl champion in that game. You know the one I'm talking about, the one where Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II came back and led his team to a victory over there against the Falcons. And looking at that year, it was definitely a tough year for him. It was a tough year for Dan Quinn. It was a great year for Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. But it was a tough year because a few more years later, he would be out of Atlanta. He would be in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, with Calvin Ridley, and they still on a team with Ryan Tannehill that thought was built to go the distance again in 2021. Couldn't get it done. You then go to Tampa Bay to try to squeeze the last bit of lemon juice out of the lemon of what one Cole Johnson would say was Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. You try again in 2022, and it doesn't quite work out. So in 2023, you bring Chase one more time, and it didn't work out with the Philadelphia Eagles after spending this past season as a free agent. After spending this past season as a free agent, you, Julio Jones, are hanging it up. Your legacy is you're definitely, as a player, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer. You got 13,000 receiving yards. You got 66 touchdowns, 914 receptions all time. 7-time Pro Bowler. You know, 2-time NFL receiving yards leader. 2-time first team All-Pro. 3-time second team All-Pro. You were the NFL 2010s All-Decade team member and NFL receptions co-leader in 2015. So with all that being said, you've made your mark on the NFL. You're definitely going to be remembered. You deserve a gold jacket. You deserve a ring. But I think what his legacy is going to be is the year that he was screwed out of the Super Bowl by Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II.
Lord. Yeah, he was screwed up that. I'm sorry. He was. Ooh, these allergies. I'm sorry. Junior! Well, I'm so sorry. The fight over the Tush Push continues. So, at the annual league meeting, which began last week, when, of course, they review all the things from last season, and they open it to every club and league staffer in attendance, along with their guests. The commissioner, Roger Goodell, sat in front of a ballroom of people at Palm Beach's opulent Breakers Hotel, while NFL Network's Steve Weiss interviewed a panel of 4 Florida grade schoolers whose teacher was being honored after going viral for using NFL-inspired lessons in her curriculum. So Weiss asked the children, what would you suggest the NFL to make football more fun? And there was an 11-year-old who was in the audience wearing a Jamar Chase jersey in honor, of course, of the Bengals wide receiver. And he yelled into the microphone. Let's see if I could find it in my heart to say it the way that the lad said it. He said, quote, more tush push, close quote. Even the children know the deal. But my question to you is the following. Why are the NFL owners scared to have this conversation, considering that they decided to table it to have further conversation?
I mean, they're scared to have the conversation because it's going to trigger whichever side is affected, whichever way the ruling goes. Because one side's going to be upset because you can get away with it. The other side's going to be upset that you took it away, whichever way that you go with this in this ruling. But I do want to say that Mark Schlereth brings up a really good point where on the other side, on the defense, you can't crowd the box in the manner that you do on the offense when you're performing the tush push, because you know they're getting the biggest guys possible, like they did in free agency or the trade or draft or whatnot, and they've built this super line, kind of like if you were to play WWE 2K25 or whatever, and you pick Super Cena with 100 and you play with Super John Cena, okay? Well, you've got the Super John Cena offensive line over there for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they are Super Cena, you can't see me, pushing themselves across the goal line, or pushing their quarterback across the goal line for touchdowns, known as the tush push. And you've got The other 31 teams in the league upset because they cannot stop it, because the ultimate formula that you would have to stop it on the other side is illegal to use in the game of football on defense, crowding the box that way and putting that many people up there of size. There's rules against it, which is why Mark Schlereth, who is an offensive lineman or a former offensive lineman, is saying this as it should be banned, because if the other team can't stack the box in the manner that what you do to stop it, due to rules very similar to the tuck rule and other rules that are designed to protect players on the offense, primarily the quarterback, but in this case, I guess it is another rule for the quarterback in his favor. So, yes, if you were to go about what he said, you would ban this rule and just wipe it clean. But if you do ban the rule, you got little Johnny over here who's talking on TV with Jamar Chase, jersey, whatever the case may be. You're going to have little Johnny over here upset because he doesn't get to watch the Tush Push. Okay? So regardless, whether it's little Johnny getting upset or Karen, somebody is getting upset. Well, more so Kevin. Because it would be the Kevin situation. Where there's little Johnny or Kevin, somebody is going to be upset over here about this ruling. No matter which way you go. It's just like politics. No matter what you pick at the end of the day, no matter who gets selected, there's going to be a group of people that's going to be upset. And that's exactly what's going to happen here with the Tush Push, regardless of whichever way you go with it. So, the NFL owners are scared to have this conversation because they know that regardless at the end of it, whichever ruling is made, there's going to be a group of people that's going to be upset. Will they do the things that were caused as a result of political actions and decisions in the past because of it? No. But you will have a little Johnny upset on Twitter or X or whatever, or a little Kevin. Somebody, whether it's little Johnny or little Kevin, somebody's getting upset today. Whether it's today, tomorrow, another day, it's happening because of this rule right here, known as the Tush Push. And that's what I got to say about that, the NFL owners.
Well, from Marshall Larrett's standpoint, I agree. And I'm aware that defenses are not able to stack the box the way that offenses currently can. I am of the ilk of bump that, continue that rule, and why don't you actually have the defense stack the box like that? And you can say, well, we're doing this for the safety of the quarterback. Look, doing what they're doing with the Tush Push, basically having a rugby wedge, that's not all that safe for the quarterback to execute in the first place. So if you're going to allow offenses to do wedge plays, why don't you have the defense have the ability to do wedge plays too? I'm good with that. But again, that's me. I'm like, okay, so you can allow the Tush Push, allow the defense to stack the box to stop it. I'm 100% good with that. But I agree from Marshall Lever's standpoint because it does make sense. All right, so if offenses are allowed to stack the box, which they currently can, but the defense is not, then yes, that's an inherent unfair advantage for the offense. Agreed. But football's a violent sport. So, and yes, I know you got to be concerned about safety. If you're going to allow the Tush Push, allow the defense to stack the box because it's an exciting play, and it'd be even, to me, made more exciting if the defense actually get their big boys up there. I mean, just think about it: three or four big boys on defense, and that'd be great to see. I would love to see it. So yes, I'm still in favor of the Tush Push. And I'm in favor of actually having the defense stack the box too.
Yeah, and I like that too. It's like I don't have a problem with the Tush Push being there, but I do feel like if we're going to have this conversation, if you're going to keep it, then you need to amend the ruling on the other side to where you can have it be fair on both sides, to where we can see a true battle. Because the way it's set up now, it's favored one side. So that's where I understand the argument, and I agree with that. And I think the only way that you can satisfy little Johnny and little Kevin is if you have both sets have the same playing rules, it's the same playing field.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have little Johnny and little Kevin playing on the same set of rules on the same field, everybody wins. And nobody can cry. And if they do, then we have all the facts here to say, well, little Johnny or little Kevin, you have everything you need, so shut up. And there you go. If you don't like it, make more moves in the offseason, free agency, trade, draft, whatever, because you got all the rules you need now. They can do the tush push, and you can stack the box, and we can see who's the more powerful team at the end of the day.
Oh, that's a really good argument. I like that. I'm with you on that. 100% on that. You did mention rules changes, and there were some others which were made, such as the NFL owners approving a significant amount of them involving the league's kickoff structure. And they also authorized the expansion of replay assist programming during the final session of their league meetings this past week. The touchback on kickoffs will be now marked at the 35-yard line for the upcoming season, a move that league officials and special teams coaches said will prompt a significant increase in the return rate, which, of course, was abysmally low. The new language reflects the original intent of the massive revamp of the NFL instituted last year when the final negotiations resulted in a touchback spotted at the 30. Now, that left many coaches comfortable in kicking touchbacks last year. The league produced a return rate of, again, only 33%. Special teams coach of the Broncos, Darren Rizzi, one of the primary architects of the revamp, he projects a return rate this year of between 70 to 75%. Now, another change, the overtime rule. Now, if you even score a touchdown in the regular season and it's the first possession, the opposing team will get the ball, just like in overtime. However, it is still in the regular season a 10-minute overtime, as opposed to the 15-minute overtime in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Now, my question to you about that is the following. Will these new rules changes bring excitement or shoulder shrugs to the product?
I think in some ways a little bit of both. I do like the overtime rules where it's still 15 minutes in the playoffs and 10 during the regular season. Makes it where you got to play a little bit faster, a little bit quicker during the regular season, because every second is definitely counts. And if you go to the end and you get a tie, then that's pretty impactful to how your seeding will be at the end of the year, whether you make the playoffs or not. In some cases, if you have a tie, or in and all that said, but in the playoffs, of course, you're going to have 15. The one thing that I would say is when you go to the playoffs, game can't end in a tie. So I think that they need to at some point amend that, because if you can't end a game in a tie in the playoffs, you shouldn't be able to end the game a tie in a regular season, because those wins, half a win, as a result of the win or whatever on paper, makes a big difference at the end of the year when it comes to seeding. So I think at some point, if we're going to amend these rules for overtime, you need to amend that to where there should be no tie at the end of the game. It is as a result of gameplay. If it's weather or something like that, I get it, but then you should, because I guess it's a lot if you got to pick up a game from the fourth quarter or something like that, and there's a tie or something like that at that point. I get there's stipulations, but in a regular game, you're in a dome, whatever the case may be, and you're in overtime and it ends and it's tied, you should have some type of sudden death like you do in the regular, like in the playoffs, because you can't tie and have three players and three teams in the Super Bowl, so it doesn't work that way. So when it comes to this, at the end of the day, between the overtime rules, I do like that as far as the 10 to the 15 puts a little bit more pressure on the teams to score in the regular season. The kickoff, as far as their percentage of projections of more kickoffs return back, I'll believe it when I see it. But I will say this. I do think that we will get more excitement out of that because you're not going to want to kick a touchback and put the player in the other offense on the 35-yard line. Okay, 20, 25, it's one thing. Give them an easy 20, 25 yards. It's okay. But 35 and you're only 15 yards away from midfield, you're a first down away literally from midfield when you kick it into it's a touchback. So do you really want to give them that opportunity to be a first down away from midfield? No. So if you kick it and they have to return it, from the 5 and you tackle them at the 18, 20-yard line, if you have a decent special teams core, that makes a huge difference. Stopping them at the 18 to 20-yard line is a huge difference in 15 yards. That's big because then from that point, you are 30 yards away from midfield and you are 3 first downs, on paper, away from getting to midfield, and then you still have a half a field to go. That's a lot of green. So I do like this because we were seeing a lot of touchbacks last year to where kickers where it was just easy just to go ahead, kick it in the end zone. We have a touchback, 25, everything's cool. They still have 75 yards to go. They still have 2.5 first downs before they're even at midfield. Now, 10 yards makes a huge difference because now you kick a touchback and you have 1 first down and you're at midfield. That increases your options of plays that you can make from that point forward to score. And if you're a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who has the chemistry, who knows their way around the rules, and especially how to bend them with their quarterback, getting every single call, I would say that it definitely works in their favor when they're starting at their 35-yard line. So, that's if the other team kicks it as a touchback. So now it puts a little bit more pressure on the kick returners, in my opinion, than it did before in recent years, because you're going to see a lot more kick returns than we've seen in recent years, and we don't have any Devin Hesters or anybody out there like we've seen 20 years ago who are big threats as receivers who can be great returners. So that's something we're going to maybe see a resurgence in this year, hopefully, but it'll bring more excitement to kick returns and kickoffs because you're going to see more squib kicks here. You're going to see more kicks to the returners that have to be returned. And that's just as simple as that when it comes to this NFL game that could trickle on over to the other sports leagues like the UFL arena and so on.
Well, the reverse has happened. I mean, the adoption of what the UFL does with kickoffs, well, the NFL embraced it, and they still are embracing it. So, yeah, I agree with you. I actually thought they were going to say, screw it, not the 35, the 40. I actually thought they were going to go that far up. I still think you'll still have some teams who would say, screw it, we'll still kick it in the end zone. And we'll take our chances. But yes, we will see more returns. Will it be, and I agree with you, will it be 3 out of every 4 kickoffs that we see a return? I don't think so. Maybe half. I don't think it's going to be that many. I don't think it's going to be that much more. But it will be more than last year. But yeah, you do raise a good point. And hopefully we do get to see more kick returners. And who knows, we might actually see another Devin Hester type or a Weapon X. Been a long time since I mentioned Dante Hall. Goodness gracious. Quarterback Trey Lance, he agreed to an agreement on a 1-year deal worth up to $6.2 million with the Chargers this past Friday. Now, this does not make him the lone backup quarterback. Taylor Heineke is still a Charger. And both of them will back up, of course, the starting quarterback of the Chargers, Justin Herbert. Now, Herbert has been one of the most durable quarterbacks during his 5 years. He has started 62 consecutive games to begin his career with the second longest active streak in the NFL before fracturing his right index finger late in the 2023 season. Still, Herbert has played through injuries, and although he didn't miss a game last year, he was often hobbled and missed snaps or quarters. Now, Lance gives the Chargers another competent backup option along with Heineke, who appeared in 4 games last season. That is if Herbert misses time. The signing also likely means that the Easton Stick experiment, the Chargers' third-string quarterback last year, he more than likely will not return. So my question to you is the following. How far has this former first-round draft pick's NFL stock fallen?
Oh, pretty far. It is fallen to the point to where it's it's been pretty tough to watch. I mean, we have had him selected as this multiple times.
Acknowledge me.
I sure will. I will acknowledge the fact that you have definitely been a snowflake over there, Trey Lance. You know, falling from the top touted pick that you were to losing to a Mr. Irrelevant to becoming the starting quarterback over there in San Francisco to going to one of the worst places a quarterback could go at this point. That is to Geraltown, to a place known as Jerry World.
What?
Place known as Jerry World.
What?
The Dallas Cowboys.
What?
The team that absolutely sucks
What?
for the past 29 years.
What?
Oh, they've been terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Acknowledge the fact as you all join the room. After 29 years, this year, they will end the drought.
That was a lie.
Sure will, and it's not going to be because of Trey Lance leaving the place. Trey Lance going to the Chargers was absolutely a great move for him and his career, because if you can't go to the Rams, where you have, you know, the quarterback whisperer over there, Sean McVay,
Right.
you get the next closest great thing to that, somebody who did play the position of quarterback in the NFL and happens to be the head coach of the Chargers over there. You know, of course, you're not going to start because you've got Justin Herbert over there. But for Trey Lance, this is actually pretty good because, you know, Herbert's had some issues with staying healthy at certain points in the past, and you don't want to wish anything bad, but at some point, if he does come out of a game, if he does, you know, need to miss a couple starts, Trey Lance is going to be primed to, start that game, start the next game or two, because Heineke, ever since leaving Washington, hasn't been able to prove as a viable option as a starter in Atlanta or wherever else he's been since he's left. So as much as I like Taylor Heineke, I like what he did in that game against Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. I still have the shirt of him diving for the pylon, Taylor Heineke. But, you know, he's just, I'm still glad that he's in the NFL. But Trey Lance is a good person to compete for the number 2 option. If not, it could be like Dallas, where you're fluctuating between the 2 and 3 spot. You know, with Cooper Rush like you did over there, you could be doing the same thing in this spot with Taylor Heineke, something similar over here with the Chargers. But when it comes to going from a team that has a lot of question marks around it in Dallas to go into a team that's a little bit more stable, I would say, in Los Angeles over there under, you know, Jim Harbaugh, you know, even though they still have a lot more to prove, and the Cowboys have accomplished more as a franchise as a whole, I feel like the Chargers have a brighter future within the next 5 years than the Cowboys do. And if you're Trey Lance, and if you need to be a backup to a quarterback that could potentially go down, which both Dak Prescott and or Justin Herbert have proven that they can go down at certain points throughout certain years in recent history, you've got a better team built around Justin Herbert with the Chargers than you do with Prescott and the Cowboys, to where if you slide in there, you're poised to have more success over there with the Chargers than you do with good old Dallas and Geraltown. So for Trey Lance, it's a great move for his career because if you slide in, you have good film of you playing with a decent team that might be the jumpstart to your career, like a Sam Darnold, to where what happened this past year in Minnesota. You have something similar like that with the Chargers over here in Los Angeles. This could be the resurgence to Trey Lance's career, just like Sam Darnold got to where he now has a starting gig over there in Seattle. And Trey Lance in 2026 could be starting somewhere else. Who knows?
Okay. But I agree with you. I think now he's going to be a perpetual backup. I think he's going to be holding clipboards the rest of his career. He may get a shot to spot start, but I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to start like he did his rookie season. And that was before he ended up getting injured and then was not even considered an option once Brock Purdy became the starter for the 49ers. So, yeah.
It's like a younger Jameis.
Yeah, I could probably say that. Well, I got to change my mind. I think the chap is going to have a wonderful starting career. I think he's going to bounce back. He's going to usurp Taylor Heineke. He's going to usurp Justin Herbert. And he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes!
No, sir. No, career backup. It's unfortunate. The number 3 overall pick from 2022? No, not happening. Oh well.
Thank you for giving us a new button.
No problem, sir.
I loved it. Can we? I gotta hear it again.
Got me
Said I gotta hear it again. That's hilarious.
We still have 45 minutes to click the button. Yeah.
Well, one that probably will click that button for all of his haters. That would be one Geno Smith. We did talk about him a little earlier. We'll delve a little bit further into it. The Raiders and their new quarterback, they have agreed to a 2-year, $75 million extension. And the contract has incentives that could push that total to actually to the neighborhood of $85.5 million. It also includes $66.5 million in guarantees. Now, the 34-year-old is now contractually obligated to Las Vegas through the 2027 season. Now, he had 1 year, $31 million left on his current deal, and now you tap on that 75 after that. The Raiders traded a 2025 third-round pick to the Seahawks to acquire Mr. Smith last month. Now, adding Smith solved the Raiders' need for a quarterback after the team struggled under Uncle Rico, Gardner Minshew, and Aiden O'Connell last year. And most importantly, the arrival of Smith allows them to compete right away under the new guidance and regime of the former Seahawks head coach, Pete Carroll, and general manager, John Spytek. Now, my question to you is the following. Is this a great redemption story? Well, you got my answer, but yours. Is this a great redemption story, or have the Raiders overpaid for Mr. Geno Smith?
It's tough to really answer in certain ways at this point on March 7th. I mean, not March 7th, on April 7th. That clip still has me. I forgot what month.
Find an excuse to hit the button. That is low even for you. He gave himself a content creation excuse to hit that button. That's hilarious.
Oh, that was. I mean, at least it was better than over clicking on.
You okay? You okay?
All right, I had to reset for a second. That was. I was still from that first time you clicked the button. I'm still getting myself together on it. But anyway, when it comes to Geno Smith in the $75, $75 million extension, yes, it is a great redemption story because just like you had said earlier, punched a teammate in the face in the locker room over money that he'd lent out. And we didn't know if he was ever going to be able to play again.
Right.
As a starting quarterback in the NFL. And then after his time that he spent in Seattle backing up, Russell Wilson, getting the opportunity to start once he had left for Denver. And we already know about the Russell Wilson story. But throughout that time that Russell's been gone, Geno has built up or rebuilt his reputation as a starter, and what he did in Seattle, to where even though Seattle wanted to go in a different direction, he had still built up enough clout to go somewhere else. Granted, yes, it is with his former head coach that he had, and it could just be for these 2 years because the Raiders will more than likely, whether it's this year or next year, draft the heir apparent to Geno Smith, who will succeed him, as Geno Smith at that point will either retire or move on to another opportunity, because I think that he's got enough left in the tank to kind of help this Raiders team build back to what they want to establish over there in Las Vegas. And, he's going to be that bridge quarterback, kind of like how you have bridge champions in professional wrestling, right? Who are there to kind of take the title off somebody else and bring it and get it and then polish it up and shine it up nice for who you're trying to set up as the next heir apparent. I think this right here is what Geno Smith is doing. He's going to be that bridge quarterback who, while the rest of the team is going to be getting assembled to be competitive, whether it's at your running back position, whether it's having a solid offensive line to anchor the foundation for your team for the offense. You know what you've got over there for tight end at Brock Bowers, but you got to build around it. You need a couple more weapons at wide receiver. Whether it is Shadur Sanders or whoever it is that you draft this year, you got to continue to build pieces around in the draft and free agency. It's going to be this offseason along with next and potentially the one after that that'll have this Raiders offense and defense ready to rock and roll. The defense is doing pretty decent with Max Crosby over there, but you still have a lot more work to put in when it comes to that offense, because Uncle Rico had a couple flashes in the pan last year, but he could have been more consistent had he had a lot more to work with, because he's not a horrible quarterback, but he was doing the best with what he had. And wasn't much except for Brock Bowers over there at tight end. So if they can establish things and get a good flow over there with their offense, which with Tom Brady in the ownership box and part of who's making the decisions to build an offense, there's nobody better than reading offenses and defenses and putting things to pen to paper when it comes to football over the last decade and some change than Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. And regardless of his name, the way you say it, whether it's the second or junior, either way, it's got me up.
Whew, man, these allergies, I'm telling you. Junior! These allergies, man.
Hey, don't get upset just because when it comes to football,
You okay? Oh, Lord. Tom Brady. My king? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Got me up. Now that felt real good to hit that button. But yeah, congratulations, Geno Smith. I mean,
You can't handle the truth.
Right. There've been other careers that have short circuited and done so off of ridiculousness of what you found earlier in your own career, but looks like with age has come maturity, and thankfully you have righted the ship, and you actually might end up having one of those careers where people could say, wow, yeah, if I keep my nose to the grindstone and I actually focus on hard work, I actually can make something out of myself, and you have. So credit to you, kudos to you, and yeah, hopefully you will play your now elongated contract to probably when you more than likely will retire, because I don't see you playing past 2027. You know, who knows? You might want to eke out another year. I doubt it, but proud of you for actually making something out of your career when it could have just gone straight down the toilet.
Concerned though with what he has to work with over there. If you were to put like this current team on the field, because outside of Brock Bowers, who do you really have? You know, they haven't made any huge. You got Jacoby Myers as your wide receiver.
Yeah, I was about to say that's it.
But is that really your wide receiver one?
To me, it's not. Not that, and that's not a shade on. That's not shading Myers, but yeah, I agree with you. Your best target is Brock Bowers. Best target, period, is him. But yeah, he's going to need to have more than just him and Jacoby Myers. I agree with you.
And Raheem Mostert, like, yeah, it's
oh yeah, not the backfield Raheem Mostert. Yeah,
you know, you got Aiden O'Connell and Carter Bradley as your backup quarterbacks. You know, it looks like, and this is their official roster they have on their website. I'm concerned if I'm Geno Smith right now. Like, if you have a solid offensive line around you, then you can do something with that. But it's good that he got paid, at least, because this is more likely his last big payday in the NFL. But right here and now, they got to keep making more moves. I know it's only the first, it's the second week of April now, you know, with this Monday, but they got to make some moves in the draft and some more moves this offseason, because whether they're playing big for next year's offseason, with what they got on paper right now, I don't like it.
You and me both. If they think that what they have presently constituted is going to compete for the AFC West, no, not going to happen. They need to get a lot. They need to make a lot more moves, and hopefully for them, it starts with the draft in order to actually close that gap. But as of this moment, no, they still have a lot of room to go. Speaking of a lot of room, we have a lot of room to go, but we're going to take a pause for the cause. But when we come back, we're going to do what we normally do, and we're going to 2-minute drill week 3 of the UFL. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Ready.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan, join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court. Of the UFL, we're going to start with Friday's game. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. All times are Eastern. The Birmingham Stallions come home for their first game of the 2025 campaign, and the defending champs at 1-1. They face off against the 2-0 Arlington Renegades. Now, the Stallions are favored by 3. And who do you have in this game, sir?
You know, with this game right here, the Renegades have been absolutely dominant the past 2 weeks, winning their first 2 games. However, going against the Birmingham Stallions, who are finally at home after having 2 road games the past 2 weeks, and on a preferred day, because it seems like the Friday, it's been like a selection for the Stallions. It's like their day to play over the past couple weeks. For them, I got to go with Birmingham at home, and as a result of this, both teams are 2-1. After what the Renegades did this past week against the Houston Roughnecks, I'm not thrilled with this Renegades team winning 11-9. And the Stallions, yes, they've struggled. You know, they lost the first week against a really good DC Defenders team, but this past week, they were able to win against a really good Michigan Panthers team by a possession 21-12. I got to give it to the Stallions for what they've done. And with the Renegades only winning by 2 points against the Roughnecks, they didn't convince me. So with that being said, I'm going to select the Stallions to win at home in my Commanders jersey as I got ready for the picks.
Well, I'm glad that you put on your Commanders jersey. Yes, I agree with you. I think the Stallions, in their home debut for this year, I think they're going to show up, show out, and probably give us more of a glimpse as to, I think, the type of team the Renegades really are. Not saying that they're bad. I don't think they're as good as their 2-0 record advertises themselves to be. So, yeah, I think both teams will fall. I think both teams will be 2-1. The Renegades will fall to it, and the Stallions will improve to it. Saturday,
like shootout. Like, you think it's gonna be like a shootout, or it's gonna be one-sided, or it's gonna be pretty close, pretty light scoring game.
I think the game is gonna be close for a half, and I think probably starting in the third quarter, the Stallions will I won't say blow them out, but I think they'll take control of the game. And I see it being a double digits victory for the Stallions, but I don't see it being one where they control the game the whole while through. They can, but I don't think they will. But I don't think it's gonna be a shootout either. But I think it's gonna be like maybe, I don't know, like a 24-13 or 24-10 type game, something like that. The Renegades will show fight, but the Stallions, that they just have too much for the Renegades.
I think that with Luis Perez over there in Arlington and what he's done over there at the quarterback position, I mean, yeah, he threw for 200 yards this past week. That's great. Mm-hmm. He hasn't turned the ball over. That's going to be the key. If Luis Perez doesn't turn the ball over, they've got a shot to win this game. However, when you look at what the Renegades have done over the past couple weeks, the one thing that I think, they've had some help with Dede Hunter over there as he's had taken 14 carries for 63 yards in this past week. And then you look at what he did in week 1, with their matchup against the Brahmas. Of course, the Brahmas weren't really much competition. Dede Hunter had 16 carries for 40 yards, and Kalen Ballage, who was my pick for Grand Champ of the Week last week, had 110 yards on 9 carries. If they can continue to establish the run against this team in Birmingham, they're going to win this game. But I think that the Stallions are going to stop the run and force a turnover, whether it's through an interception or a fumble, one way or another, as a result of a turnover or a lack thereof in the running game. That's going to be what affects the Renegades, in my opinion, and that's how they're going to take the loss in Birmingham this week.
Okay, all right, I can see that. And I think we might see the Stallions force Perez into a mistake. Not saying I'm rooting for it. They just haven't played a team as I won't say stacked, but they haven't played a team I think as good as the Stallions yet. But that will all change Friday. Saturday, the Houston Renegades, they'll play their second consecutive road game. They will travel to the Volunteer State to play the Showboats. Memphis at 0-2. ESPN has this game kicking off at 8 p.m. Sorry, both teams are 0-2. And it's a pick'em. Boy. Okay. Who do you have in this game and why?
This game on Saturday, it's going to be a watch the results, look at the highlights type of game, because this game, I mean, both teams, somebody's got to win, but both teams coming in here know only how to take the... I think it's going to be absolutely... It is going to be a game spearheaded by these. A group of dumpster pelicans. One being the one team and one being the other. At the top of... I'm going to go ahead and loop-de-loop on this one. So we have this up here for a minute.
Oh, Lord.
When it comes to the dumpster pelicans right here. You got the Renegades and you got the Showboats. And you've even got the San Antonio Brahmas. Those are the top three dumpster pelicans of the league. Now, top two potentially could be in this game. As you have the team, the Houston Roughnecks, who are 0-2, against the Memphis Showboats, who are 0-2. Somebody's got to win. Both teams can't lose, or can they? This team facing the Dumpster Pelican team on the other side. This team could tie. This game could tie. And these two Dumpster Pelicans could unite into an 0-2-1 record. That is what I predict, because we have to have a winner, but this way we are guaranteed to have a loser. I'm predicting a tie for the first time ever in 79 episodes.
Oh, Lord, you're predicting a tie.
I only did it so we could click this again.
Oh, my God. My partner went.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Both teams suck. Wow, that's cold. That's just cold. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm sorry, Mickey. What's up? And Playmaker, you knew what you were coming into, my man. You would have to come in for that. At least you didn't come in. At least you didn't come in for something like this.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
We still have 24 minutes.
But we're still sort of beating a dead horse here because, unfortunately, between the Roughnecks and the Showboats, both teams are abysmal. Although the Showboats have shown a little bit more fight than the Roughnecks have. The Roughnecks just offensively aren't capable of doing anything in my opinion, of any note, football-wise.
So who
Sad.
wins?
Well, I believe the Showboats are going to win. I just can't. I just can't see the Roughnecks playing well against them. I want to believe their offense will wake up, but they just. I will purse my words, but yeah, I almost want to say Roughnecks just so I could at the top of next week's show just go.
Watch the Roughnecks win, and we're going to look back on the fact that they only lost to the Renegades by 2 points. And that's what primed them in position to win the toilet bowl that we're going to watch this Saturday night, because that's what it seems like is going to be, a toilet bowl. Finally, the Browns make it to the Super Bowl. The toilet bowl, the festivities of two teams that absolutely suck. And you know who's going to be in attendance?
Okay.
Got me
When it comes to Playmaker, glad that you can make it. Had to click the button for him.
No problem. Oh Lord.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Goodness gracious. But yes, I'm picking the Showboats. They'll get off the schneid, as Chris Berman would say. They'll get the first win of the year, and the and the Roughnecks will go to 0-3, because I just don't see any way possible for the Roughnecks to perform well. I wish I could. Oh, I do it to myself. Okay, fine. I guilty as charged. I do it to myself. Goodness gracious. Anyway, jeez.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, to the first of two Sunday kickoffs, noon on ABC. Playmaker. You see, that's not that's not NBA. That's actually UFL. My bad. The Michigan Panthers, 1-1. They are at home to face off against the 0-2 San Antonio Bombers. Michigan is favored by 4.5. ABC will have that game. Your selection on who is going to win this game and why, sir?
Let me talk to you.
San Antonio Brahmas are at the bottom of the league, just like the Showboats and the other team we just talked about, the Roughnecks. So between these past three teams between these four teams we just talked about, 3 out of the 4 teams absolutely suck between the Brahmas, the Showboats, and the Renegades. But one team that does not, even though they just took an L this past week, and that is the Michigan Panthers. They are 1-1. They're going to look to redeem themselves. Both Nakua brothers are on both sides of the ball. You got Samson on the offensive side, and you got Kai on the defensive side, looking to make an impact in this game. I'm going to go with the Michigan Panthers at Ford Field, home of the Detroit Lions. Michigan Panthers showing up. Do they pack the house like when the Detroit Lions are in the stadium? No. But they do show up and play decent football, and that's what I'm looking for this team to do at home this upcoming week. For the Brahmas, they've only scored 9 points, collectively 18 points in the past 2 weeks. I just said it earlier, they've been outscored like 50, it was like 55-18 or 57-18 or 53-18, something like that. It's 50-something to 18 is what they've been outscored as a team these past 2 weeks. And the Michigan Panthers can put up points, even though they only put up 12 this past week and gave up 21. It was to a decent team known as the Stallions that were looking for a way to bounce back after losing to the Defenders in week 1. So I'm going with the Panthers at home. The Brahmas, again, have only scored a total of 18 points, 9 per game these past 2 weeks. I'm not looking for them to score much more, potentially less, against this Panthers defense that has been pretty solid at points. and still not doing a terrible job against the Stallions team this past week, but you're playing against the Stallions who had to break through at some point. And I do know that the Panthers are going to give up another loss or so for the rest of this year at some point, but it's not happening this week, not at home, and not against a dumpster Pelican team like the Brahmas this year. I'm going with the Panthers at Ford Field.
I am going for the Panthers as well. And again, this is the second full season for one Mr. Wade Phillips coaching, and normally with the second season, the defense goes, and if that's the case, the team is doing the same, and it's unfortunate for them. It's also doubly unfortunate we don't have anybody. Well, we do have somebody in kind of cool. I was gonna say we don't have anybody that we could root for like a Jake Bates, but well, Jake Bates, who actually got on as a Lion from the Panthers, doing pretty well, but that's neither here nor there. The Panthers, I think they're going to succeed. I think this game's going to be very easy. I think they're going to coast to a victory. It's going to be similar to the game they played in Memphis, where they didn't fully, they didn't skunk them, but they just coasted to an easy victory. I think that's what we're going to see here with the Panthers going up against the Brahmas. And unfortunately, the Brahmas, I think they will fall to 0-3, which is unfortunate for them.
You bring up Jake Bates from last year, from this team that we just reviewed in playing the Michigan Panthers. There's nobody on this team or even anybody else that I'm seeing through 2 weeks now, previewing the upcoming week for week 3, that really sticks out as somebody that could leap into the NFL. Like last year, we were saying that again for Bates because after 2 weeks, he'd already kicked like one, if not two of those 60-yard field goals at that point. So we were already saying that he was poised for the NFL because I think the kicking position is the easiest one where we can really look at it and say you can slide right in as an NFL kicker. You're not going to look at it as a quarterback like Luis Perez is putting up 200-plus yards per game and saying that guy's going to go start in the NFL, because this is now his 4th year, if I'm not mistaken, starting consecutively for the Arlington Renegades. Because he played 2 years in the XFL. This is now his 2nd in the UFL as a starting quarterback, and he has a XFL championship under his belt too as a starting quarterback for the Arlington Renegades. So, my point with all this, looking at this for what it is with these teams, you got Jake Bates, who we said after a couple weeks last year, previewing week 3, was ready for the NFL. Unless I'm overseeing something, do you see anybody here in the 2025 season that, as we're getting ready to preview the last game, that's sticking out to you saying, I could see them playing in the NFL? Because there's nobody to me right now like Bates last year I'm saying right now is I can see them playing in the NFL in 2025.
No, the closest, and of course it's on the same team. The closest maybe would be Puka's brother Kai. That's the closest one. And if Jacob, I'm trying to think his name, Sailors. If he were to actually get more of the Lions' share of the carries for the Battle Hogs, I could probably say him too. But really, I'm with you. There's not one that really stands out per se. The closest, but I'd say the closest to me would be Kai Nakua. That's the closest one.
Yeah, I like that answer too. I just wish that that he did some things last year. The Nakua brothers deserve to have an opportunity, both of them, him and Samson. But Samson doesn't get enough opportunities on offense because they're spreading the ball around, which I'm not mad at that. But Kai, you would think that last year he would have got the opportunity, but definitely after this year, if he continues on the pace of what he's doing, should get a look in the NFL. But I just remember Jake Bates was sticking, off the page last year as somebody that we definitely know is going to get a shot at the NFL, let alone didn't know if it was going to be right there in Detroit, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at least, previewing this upcoming game, he's not there anymore, but his spirit will be guiding the Panthers. They'll improve to 2-1 against the Brahmas. Brahmas are going to fall to 0-3, at least in our opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see it for them. I would love to. I simply just don't.
Who's giving them the business?
And the final game, the late kickoff, ABC, again, playmaker, no NBA. Thank the Lord. The Battlehawks are 2-0. They they host the Defenders, who are playing their first road game this year. They're also at 2-0. The Battlehawks are 5.5-point favorites. Kickoff is at 3. Your pick and why?
This is going to be a sold out field over there in St. Louis. This is going to be a good game between two teams that are coming into this 2-0, and it's the best time to have it in probably the primest of times if you weren't going to put it on Friday night, because Friday has been a pretty good time to put games on, because Saturday is kind of like the snooze of ones. It seems like it's just not just the energy of it when cutting it on the TV. To me, it just doesn't feel the same. Fridays and Sunday night games have been the best. I do feel like if you were going to have this game, it kind of should be at 6, kind of like how last night's was at 6:30. Somewhere in that time is a good prime. But 3 o'clock's okay. If you're going to have is your last game of the week, at least it's at that slot, because you have two teams that are both undefeated. But with what the Battlehawks have done through 2 weeks, the production they've gotten out of their offense, especially, we were just talking about Jacob Sailors earlier with what he's done. He was my selection for the Grand Champ of the Week this week because of what he's done, and I got to put him back up here because he's been a driving force for the Battlehawks these past 2 weeks. I mean, you can't say anything other than what he's done. I mean, the past 2 weeks for this team, for the Battlehawks, have been pretty impressive, and he's been a pretty big driving force for them in their running game. They have a different quarterback this year, which we've seen that affect teams like the Brahmas significantly with the change at quarterback and who's driving the bus, as you would say. And over here as the running back, you have Sailors, who in the first week he only had 47 yards, and the second week he had very similar amount of carries and yards, but he has 3 touchdowns. Last year, he led the league in the UFL with 8 total touchdowns and is almost halfway there because so he's already got 3. So looking at that for what it is, you got to give Sailors, credit where it's due. He's getting it done over there. For the receiving, he had 4 receptions for 47 yards the week prior, but running, he had 16 for 98 yards and a touchdown. My apologies. The kid's got 4. He's already halfway there. He's got 4 total touchdowns through the first 2 weeks of the UFL season. So if they continue to have the running attack of what they've had and build off their running, which in week 1 he had 16 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown and had 4 receptions for 47 yards. In week 2, he had a little less production, but you saw with their results against the Brahmas, they still won 26-9, as we talked about it earlier. They are now 2-0, and I'm going to predict that they're going to continue to be undefeated as a result. From this week, they're going to beat the Defenders at home. The Defenders have had a pretty good story throughout the first couple weeks, but they have been exposed in certain spots to where they haven't won by much, and the Battlehawks have won pretty decisively through 2 weeks and have been getting it done, and it's been on their running attack and on the fact that their new quarterback has done a pretty good job at being consistent at his spot. I'm going to go with the Battlehawks winning in a sold-out St. Louis crowd.
I agree. Again, the best home field advantage in the UFL, and second place is not even close. Heck, I'll even put Battlehawks second. It's just that far of a distance between them and the next best team that has a great home field advantage of the 8. And the Battlehawks seem to have a really good team, and they have the one thing that I love the most. They have an active running game. They are unafraid to use it. They're unafraid to pound teams and pound defenses on the ground. And if they still would stay with that formula, which I doubt they won't steer from it, efficient passing, elite running, and basically set the defense upright. Well, all they have to do is just simply fly to the ball, play assignment football, even get a takeaway or two, and just do what they do best, and just do naturally what they do best. Now for the defenders, the only way they could actually stand toe to toe with the Battlehawks is if they have a running game of their own. Unfortunately, in the first 2 weeks, they have produced none. And even though Jordan Ta'amu has not turned the ball over, his efficiency could be a little better. But I would need to see them run the ball more. Defensively, I think they could hang with the Battlehawks. I just don't think they'd be able to hang with them all 60 minutes. So, yeah, I think the Battlehawks will have this one in hand. But this will probably be literally the game of this week. And I think this will be a good game. I think it should be a close one. But I think the Battlehawks will have this one. And it'll be a wrap in the fourth quarter. Well, that concludes the 2-minute drill, but it doesn't conclude the show itself because we have more on tap. Let it fall. Oh, yeah. Spring has sprung. We're in April, but this does not mean we will steer clear of snowflakes. Time for the Snowflake of the Week program, a portion of this program. And Drew, who is yours?
Well, after thinking about this a little bit for this past week, I came close, Cole. We talked about it earlier. I came close to giving this to Anthony Brown for the second consecutive week. And it's taken a lot to do that. Over the course of 79 episodes, refraining, I've done a pretty good job. We have not really had, I don't believe, any repeat snowflakes of the week. I think maybe a grand champ of the week or two maybe repeats.
Maybe.
But snowflakes, we try to balance the shade out a little bit when it comes to snowflakes. And when it comes to this, I had to give it to another quarterback. And I selected Kellen Mond, San Antonio Brahmas own, and I had to go with him signing an autograph over here. Signing an autograph as, for the past 2 weeks, he hasn't deserved to sign autographs, and he's in a San Antonio Brahmas jersey. These are the only pictures you can really find and get great graphics of him on the internet because unworthy quarterbacks don't really have that great of pictures, and you can see here. So look right here. He's looking down at the ground, the football on the right. He's not even ready to play football. And on the left, he is signing something that he hasn't done enough damage in the UFL to deserve to sign. So now I think you need to enjoy signing your autograph and your name as much as possible because you are about to have the opportunity of not signing any more autographs if you don't play at a better level because at this point, Kellen Mond in this past week, 13-27. Completions out of attempts for 129 passing yards and an interception, averaging 4.8 yards per attempt. 3 rushes for 19 yards with a 46.7 quarterback rating. Certified Dumpster Pelican performance yet again by another quarterback. This week, I have to give it to Kellen Mond because of what he did and the outcome for his team. The Brahmas are 0-2, and a lot of it falls on the shoulders of the quarterback play. And Kellen Mond has not played well at all this past 2 weeks. The Brahmas might have to make a decision as far as a change at quarterback. We just talked about it earlier. It's looking like Wade Phillips might have to as a result of this player's actions on the field this past week. He is my pick for Snowflake of the Week and could potentially be the first one to get back-to-back weeks of Snowflake of the Week if he doesn't change his ways pretty soon. That is my pick for Snowflake of the Week, and it goes to Kellen Mond.
All right. I agree with that pick a lot. Back-to-back horrible weeks to start the season. Yeah, I'm not feeling that at all. Yeah, good choice. Now, I was thinking long and hard about my selection, and it's not one person, it's a myriad of them. So for my Snowflake of the Week, the Houston Roughnecks offense, come on down. You're the next contestants on. You are absolutely abysmal. Oh my gosh, where do I begin? Let me see. Well, I
That
can
looks
begin with
like their
Anthony
offensive
Brown.
line.
Yeah, it does look like their offensive line. Anthony Brown. I mean, 14 of 30 this week. You got yanked last week. Uh, look, you cannot. I don't care if this is not the NFL. You cannot throw for less than 50% for a completion rating. I mean, this is Tim Tebow-esque. You can't do this. You can't do this. I think the only reason why you're actually on the field is because you do have some modicum of running ability. And that goes, and that takes me to the next point. Whenever you have an offense where your quarterback is your leading rusher, that's a problem. And in this game, even though it was 11-9 and it was still an L, but it was 11-9, it was a whole lot more competitive than the game you played at home last Friday to the Battlehawks. Your leading rusher was Anthony Brown, the quarterback of your team, with 20 yards. Shaquandre White only had 16 on 6 carries. Kirk Merritt, 14 yards on 5. You can't do anything with only gaining 63 yards on the ground in a game. And especially a game this close. You got to control the line of scrimmage on the ground with an attempt to run, an honest, earnest attempt to run the ball. Can you give me an honest, earnest attempt to run the ball? And no, not Anthony Brown acting like he's the UFL version of Lamar Jackson. No. Actually have your running backs commit to running the ball. Look, I'll give the offensive line credit. There weren't a lot of sacks that they allowed, but wow, when I look at the receiving core, I mean, Kurt Merritt, the leading receiving getter with 3. The problem is he's a running back. Goodness gracious. I mean, TJ Vasher, Jerquarius Spivey, Emmanuel Butler, Kiki Chisholm. Those 4 names I mentioned, between those 4, they had 5 receptions. 5 receptions total. 5 receptions combined with those 4 names I mentioned. You can't be this bad, but I guess you can be this bad. You actually had the ability to move the ball down the field last year. This year, it's as if you reverted to being a Pop Warner team on offense. Come on now. You can't be this bad. You can't be this bad. You have 8 more weeks to go. You got to show and prove that you can be much better than you are. Unfortunately, you're not. And this defense can hold up more. It's probably going to be a dam with the water breaking through it eventually, because they can't hold opposing offenses far too long because of your putrid performance. It has to get better. It has to get it better now. Unfortunately, I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. Jeez. Goodness gracious. 63 yards on the ground. Really? 63 yards on the ground. Oh, and not too much better. 146 yards in the air. No, you got to do better than that. You got to do better than that.
So bad.
And this was a game that they were close to winning. And this is what they put forth on offense. Horrible.
No, I love that pick, and I had to throw in those dudes because I was like, that's got to be their offensive line. They are playing absolutely terrible out here. Between your selection there for Houston Roughnecks offense and Kellermond for the San Antonio Brahmas, I think we nailed it for our selections this week for the Snowflake of the Week.
We did. And yes, in Kellerman, he definitely deserved that. I love the fact you found pictures of him signing his own autographs. That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant, sir. I got to give you mad props for that.
I appreciate it.
Gosh.
That is the Sertopa Media, Comey Media, Snowflake of the Week picks for our show.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it.
Wow, it's that time already? Jeez, this episode flew by pretty fast. Episode 79 of Total Football Talk now has reached its conclusion, but before we go, this is the post game where we give our final thoughts of the week that was. And for his final thoughts, Drew, the floor is yours.
The time has come, like you said. I mean, did fly by. Time flies when you're having fun. But episode 79, hard-hitting gridiron action of Total Football Talk has come to the point, but we are still live right now. For those of you who are still watching or watching this in the replay, thank you for tuning in as always. Thank you for tuning in to the Total Football Talk live play-by-play. As it was like 150, viewers or whatnot. Still working out, the kinks with all that and how to do that, but it's still coming together pretty smooth. The presentation of that was pretty good. As far as OBS Studio, I had some questions coming in asking about what I was using to do. That's OBS Studio and StreamYard together. So, you have to set your layout on OBS Studio and then it's a whole thing, but it worked out. You got to put your time into it, but that's why that was able to look the way that it does with the scoreboard and all that stuff in real time. And still playing around with it and feeling it out, but it's like an extension of Total Football Talk Extra and just trying it out with play-by-plays because I've seen Snowman have a decent amount of success with it, and shout out to him as, he was an inspiration to try this thing out. So, but with my post-game report, just wanted to, just kind of touch base with that. I'm not sure if I'll do one this weekend or not. It's just kind of just on a week-by-week basis based on my availability and if I can fit it in. Might try some other sports this year and spin it off into something a little bit different, maybe with baseball. But who knows? It's just kind of feeling it out. Basketball, I don't really watch enough, to be honest, to do a play-by-play in a game. But UFL, even though I'm still learning some of the people on the teams who I haven't seen on a regular basis, it's still a fun thing, and I still know enough football to where it's been going pretty smooth in my opinion, but still going on a week-by-week basis. For those of you who've been tuning in, I appreciate you tuning in, and as well as to this right here for Total Football Talk and Total Football Talk Extra here on these two platforms. Greatly appreciate it. But within the week of football with Geno Smith, like I said, Cole had some great points with that, and the amount of money that he signed for, and just the things we've seen in professional football from last Monday's episode to now is definitely a great week of football within actual live action and or the off-season moves within the National Football League. Look forward to coming back for episode 80 next Monday, and we'll see you guys here on the other side of that one as well.
Yes, we will. I appreciate that. Wonderful thought as usual. I appreciate that. Well, I think what we're witnessing with the UFL, if we were to really be honest, I think we're witnessing, players trying to feel themselves out and probably working out kinks. Follow the type of logic here. Now you're probably saying, well, you only don't see defenses having this much success in the NFL early in the year, not like it is here. We can't tell you a 300-yard passer. I think we only had two 100-yard receiving games and maybe two 100-yard rushers so far in the first 2 weeks. It's been a defensive heavy first 2 weeks, which I don't particularly mind it. But I can understand if we were to want to draw people into watch. Normally, it would have to be you had to put points on the board. It's like what I know this is another sport, but this is this applies. It's like with Tom Glanville and Tom Glavin and Greg Bannock said in a Nike commercial when they said, "quote chicks dig the long ball," close quote.
Oh yeah.
Of course, the irony of that is you have two stud pitchers saying that about action back in the late 90s baseball wise, but the equivalent to that would be that that people would like more points, more touchdowns, more exciting plays, more bombs. You know, you know, uh, they want more excitement, which is understandable. But sometimes you have to wade in the water and wade through it in order to actually get to the, I guess, promised land of action. And we'll see that. We'll get to that. Um, you almost get the feeling that you're seeing teams actually having their training camps right before your very eyes. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Because if you juxtapose that to the NFL, they have their training camp, which starts in July, and then the preseason in earnest starts roughly early August, and then you have pretty much all the kinks worked and ironed out before week 1 of the regular season. And then you might still see some sluggish action in the first 2 weeks there, but you will probably see the standout performances there. It's because they've had the time to get the chemistry down, to work things out, to work things through, and then then they're on the way there. And even they would do scrimmages against an opposing team, so they have the feel of playing not just their own uh uh co-workers, so to speak. So have patience. The UFL is going to actually be a little more exciting as the weeks and the months go on. So don't think that this is basically a harbinger of things to come. It's almost more like this is how it's supposed to be for the first 2-3 weeks of the season. Now, for all football enthusiasts, we are now on the road to the NFL draft. And of course, we're getting some pro days that we've seen. And I got a chance to witness Aston Genty and his pro day at Boise State, and he looked pretty good. In fact, there was a scout that said that he actually sort of checks out to be like another version of a Bijan Robinson. Now, for those who don't know, he's a running back for the Falcons. He right now is the number 1 running back for them, where he has the ability to tote the rock. He has the ability to run pass patterns and catch. He also has the ability to actually stand and pass protect pretty well for a number 1 running back. So that's sort of high praise for a running back that really did his thing to tote the rock for Boise State. Now, does that mean he'll be a first-round draft pick? Who knows? He might be, he might not be. I know the Cowboys need a running back, and unfortunately, Ashton Genty will probably fit your bill. Question is, will you go for him? I highly doubt it, knowing how Gerald is. But it's exciting to hear these prospects go for theirs. And now we're going to see a lot more of that in the 2 full weeks that is to come. And then the draft will be on its way April 24th. And I am looking forward to seeing how these wonderful scouts have looked upon these talents and see, okay, this guy will fit, this guy will fit, this guy will fit, or this guy doesn't fit. So, of course, we'll be seeing if teams will trade up or down, because the talk between the Browns and others is they want to trade down and get more picks. The talk with the Giants is will they draft Shedeur Sanders or not? I know my boy Wise, shout out to you, Wise Alefe. I know he wants the Giants to draft Cam Ward, but we shall see. And will the Titans, who own the number 1 overall draft pick, choose a quarterback? They already have one. Or would they choose someone like a Travis Hunter? Or will they go for probably the great draft pick of Abdul Carter, who is probably the best player on the board? And for those who don't know, he is a linebacker from Penn State, linebacker U, of course. Exciting times are ahead, and you would think that we're in the off season, that football is not exciting, but it is, and we're going to get to see that excitement unfurl in the upcoming weeks, and then of course at the end of the month, the draft. But don't sell out the UFL. We might be seeing a diamond in the rough. We saw Jake Bates last year. We talked about it earlier in the show. There might be others that will come later on in the year and surprise all of us. And hopefully we will see that, because the UFL represents a second chance for those to make that first impression. Who knows if they can?
As long as it's long. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Your thoughts, sir?
Well, that was a great closing statement there, my man. And through 79 episodes, definitely a great time. Hopefully, those of you check this out in the replay, definitely enjoy the episode. And those you couldn't make it live, we understand. But those of you who did tune in to live, we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys here on the other side for your content. To those of you who are content creators out here in these streams, thank you for tuning in and creating what you do out here and contributing to all the great things out here with these platforms. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely love all of you who create content like we do. And of course, those who religiously watch this program, we definitely love and appreciate all of you. Now, if you feel the need to talk to either one of us, if you want to reach out to my brother Drew, all you have to do is hit him up on Instagram at SirTurbo_media, at X at SirTurbo_media, at TikTok at _Sirtoba, and on YouTube at Sirtoba Media. That's youtube.com/at Sirtoba Media. And to reach yours truly, all you have to do is go onto flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Now, we thank you for liking. We thank you for sharing. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for hitting that notification bell. We also thank you for the comments as well, because you're the lifeblood of this show, and we appreciate all of what you all do. And not just for this show, but for other programming. You can catch all of those things that emanates from the Sirtoba Media YouTube channel and from the Kobe Media YouTube channel, because it will be programming that is worth your while, entertaining and even educational. I think you will appreciate it. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
Along with... and stay safe out here in these streets.
Rap.